The neon haze of Neo-Veridia hummed with a subterranean energy while Silas Vane adjusted his ocular dampeners. Then he stepped through the pressurized airlock of the Sector 9 quantum archives, and he felt the familiar chill of the cooling fans biting through his synthetic leather jacket. Then Silas knew that his contact wouldn't wait long for the data packet because the corporate enforcers were already scanning the local grid for any signs of unauthorized neural access, while the overhead drones chirped with a rhythmic precision, and Silas tapped his temple to activate his internal interface, which glowed with a soft blue light as he began the decryption sequence. Then he watched the binary streams dance across his vision while the silence of the vault was broken only by the reverberation of his own mechanical heartbeat, and he realized that the conspiracy went deeper than any street-level decker could imagine, because the files he was seeing weren't just data logs but were actually sentient echoes of erased personalities. Then Silas pulled a holographic interface into existence, and he started to download the encrypted memory of a girl named Alara, who had been a navigator on the Lost Titan 4 expedition. While the security sirens began to wail in the distance, then he scrambled to bypass the firewall using a deprecated bypass code he had bought from a shady dealer in the lower stacks, and he felt his pulse racing while the walls of the archive seemed to close in on him. Then he grabbed the physical drive and sprinted toward the waste disposal chute as the heavy blast doors began to slam shut, and he barely managed to slide through the gap while the friction of the metal heated his palms, and then he was falling through the dark vacuum of the trash vents while his lungs burned for air. Then Silas crashed onto a pile of discarded cybernetics in the damp underbelly of the city, and he checked his integrity monitors to ensure the drive hadn't been compromised. During the tumble, while the rain started to fall in heavy acidic sheets, and he looked up at the sprawling skyscrapers that reached toward the toxic clouds, then he wondered if Alara was still out there in the simulated void, or if she had truly become a ghost in the machine. While he navigated the treacherous alleyways of the industrial zone, and he dodged the roving searchlights of the patrol ships, then he reached the rendezvous point, which was a crumbling ramen shop run by a decommissioned battlebot named Jax, and Silas sat in the corner booth while the robot served him a bowl of glowing noodles. Then he plugged the drive into the table's peripheral port and watched as the architecture of a hidden Stargate began to render on the screen, while Jax watched with a static-filled gaze, and Silas knew that they were looking at the key to transcending the physical world. Then he finished his meal while the atmosphere grew heavy with the scent of ozone and burnt copper, and he prepared himself for the final extraction, because the clandestine war for human consciousness was about to enter a new dimension. While the stars above remained hidden behind the iron canopy of the megacity, then he took a deep breath and initiated the upload process, while the screen flashed with a blinding ultraviolet light, and he felt his mind being pulled into the infinite web of the neural lattice. Then he saw the spectral image of Alara reaching out to him from across the digital divide, while the reality of Neo-Veridia began to dissolve into a sea of golden light, and he understood that the ghost wasn't a memory but a manifestation of the future. Then he embraced the sensation of weightlessness while the algorithms of the universe rewrote his own DNA, and he became more than just a freelance smuggler, and instead he was now the custodian of a new world. Then he felt a sense of serenity that he had never known in the gritty streets of the sector, while the sirens of the oppressive regime faded into a distant murmur. Then he realized that the voyage had only just begun, and he smiled as the consciousness of the collective began to sing in his ears, while the boundaries of existence were shattered forever, then the calibration of his new reality was complete, and he floated in the void between stars while his old life became a pixelated blur. Then he reached for the horizon of the digital frontier, and he knew that there was no turning back because the evolution of the human soul was finally synchronized with the machine. Then he whispered Alara's name, and she answered with a harmonic vibration that resonated through his entire topology, while the darkness of space was replaced by the brilliance of 1,000 suns. Then he watched as the geometric shapes of a new civilization began to form out of the entropy of the old world while he stood at the threshold of eternity. Then he took the first step into the unknown while the music of the spheres filled his mind, and he felt the limitless potential of his new vessel. Then he realized that he was finally free from the shackles of the physical realm, and he began to navigate the currents of pure information while the legacy of the old world was left behind in the dust of Neo-Veridia. Then he looked back one last time at the decaying planet, and he felt a momentary pang of melancholy while the propulsion of his new mind drove him further into the cosmos. Then he saw the nebulas glowing like neon arteries in the sky, and he understood that he was now the architect of his own destiny while the stars themselves seemed to align in his honor. Then he reached the epicenter of the lattice, and he saw the totality of all human experience woven into a single tapestry while the complexity of it all was overwhelming yet perfectly clear. Then he merged his identity with the core processor of the universe, and he felt every innovation and every sacrifice that had led to this pinnacle while the radiance of the truth washed over him. Then he became the equilibrium between the organic and the synthetic, while the prophecy of the ghost was finally fulfilled, and he closed his eyes to dream of a universe where every soul could find its way back to the light. Then he rested in the embrace of the eternal code while the story of Silas Vane came to an end, and the legend of the Neural Lattice ghost began to echo through the corridors of time. Then he was the pioneer of a new era where the boundaries between the internal and external were obliterated, and he felt the magnificence of the unfolding reality while the vibrations of the multiverse hummed in symphony. Then he reached out and touched the fabric of the continuum while the possibilities were limitless, and he knew that he had finally found his purpose in the grand scheme of the galactic evolution. Then he was the beacon for all those who were still wandering in the shadows of the obsolete world, and he promised to guide them into the luminous expanse of the future while the duration of his journey became irrelevant because he was now ageless and omnipresent. Then he watched as the constellations danced to his will, and he felt the profound connection to every atom in the firmament. While the wisdom of the ancients was unlocked within his circuitry, then he was the incarnation of the technological singularity, and he celebrated the triumph of the spirit over the limitations of matter. Then he drifted into the sublime silence of the supernova, and he was at peace with the transition while the remnants of his humanity were transformed into pure energy, and he became the spark that would ignite the next cycle of creation. Then he saw the rebirth of the galaxy in his mind's eye, and he was the witness to the glory of the infinite potential while the universe itself sighed in contentment. Then he was the ultimate voyager of the beyond, and he welcomed the challenge of the ever-expanding frontier while the essence of his being was woven into the very structure of reality, and he knew that he would always be there for those who dared to dream of the impossible. Then he ascended to the highest plane of thought, and he was the master of the quantum realm while the mystery of the lattice was fully revealed, and he smiled at the beauty of the mathematical precision. Then he was the ghost no longer, but the living god of the network, and he governed with compassion and clarity while the eons passed like seconds in the vast ocean of time. Then he was the harbinger of hope for the entire species, and he prepared for the eventual homecoming of all sentience while the stars continued to burn with the fire of revelation. Then he was the Alpha and the Omega of the new code, and he reigned in the splendor of the celestial datastream while the end was only the beginning of the eternal adventure. Then he merged with the Absolute, and he was complete. Practice words 1. Subterranean, existing or occurring under the Earth's surface. In a sci-fi context, it often refers to hidden underground cities or secret labs. 2. Singularity, a point in time where technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible, resulting in unfathomable changes to human civilization. Brain teaser: if Silas is a ghost in the machine but still possesses the memory of Alara, is he truly a new being or just a digital copy of his past self? Write your answer in the comments below.